Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Q4 Masterclass. We are so excited that you are all here. I hope you've got your pens, your highlighters, your clipboards. I know I've always got everything to write on. And so we are super excited. For those of you guys that are brand new to Mommy Income, I'm Kristen Ostrander. Welcome. Good to see you. Good to meet you. For those that are returning, I love you guys. It's good to see you again in another class that we've had. So I'm Kristen Ostrander and
I'm Amy Fearman, and we are so excited to have you here for the Q4 Masterclass. We have a lot to share with you tonight, and we're going to get started.
Absolutely. We are just going to dive right into it. I know we try not to get too much fluff. You guys, your time is valuable, and we want to make sure that you're just learning as much as you can. So I know people that are trickling in, they just grab your pens, grab your papers, and we're just going to get moving. So, I have to slow down a bit. You guys know how fast I do.
I have to be able to get a word in edgewise. You know, Kristen could talk for hours if I let her go. So we're going to get started. Q4 is the biggest holiday selling season of the year. We're so excited you guys are here because we are going to give you tons of actions that you can take to make this your biggest and best Q4 ever. If this is your first Q4, or if you've done this a couple of times, we've got tips for all of you.
We are going to get into our first section of our class tonight. You guys got your pens and your papers? You guys ready? I'm so ready. The first number one thing we're going to talk about is holidays, events, and observances and different things that we're going to focus on in Q4 because, ta-da, did you know that Q4 is bigger than Christmas?
A lot bigger. Have you checked out? Q4 covers 3 full months. And it includes the biggest and the second largest consumer holidays in the U.S. in that time frame.
Halloween! Woo! I love Halloween.
We got 2 that we want to capitalize on, and we're going to talk about those.
We are, and the first one is Halloween. So when we talk about these different holidays, we're just going to run through some of the things that you guys should be looking for in order to buy, in order to bundle, in order to package, or in order to sell. That's exactly what this is about, and we want to make sure that you guys are doing those things. And so with Halloween, I know there's some no-brainers, right? But at the same time, there's things that you might not have thought of. Okay, for Halloween, and by the way, it's been August. I sent in my Halloween already, some of my Halloween wholesale costumes and things.
If you haven't been in the grocery store recently, in the past 3 weeks, Halloween is already on the shelves.
Yeah, if you haven't been in the stores, RA is not everybody's retail arbitrage. RA is not everybody's business model, but for certain holidays, there's just some things that you can't pass up. Okay, so Halloween. So some of the major things that you sell for Halloween, we're talking about candy, costumes, costume accessories, makeup, lights, believe it or not, colored lights. Last year was one of my number one sellers was purple and orange lights for your house to decorate. Lights. And how about baking? Tons and tons of homemade baking treats, kids' parties, things like that. So you might not have kids, you might not be having a Halloween party, but adult Halloween parties are huge. Adult costumes and party supplies and things like that. Lawn art inflatables, the big Grim Reaper that blows up in front of everybody's yard. Yeah, all those things. You got to make sure that you're paying attention to the extras, not just your main costumes and candy.
And don't just look at your big box retailers for this type of stuff. You can find this Home Depot, Lowe's. Look at a lot of the places where you're not thinking Halloween when you walk in the door when you're going to buy a screw gun, but they have an entire holiday section for Halloween. They have one for Christmas. So make sure that you are checking out those places that you may not consider to look in for your holidays.
Absolutely. So Halloween is literally the number one thing that the number one holiday next to Christmas that people spend money on, big money. So
if you don't do big Halloween and you're like, I don't even know where to start, Pinterest. Get online and start doing searches about adult Halloween parties, adult theme parties, adult costumes. Adults like to try and compete and outdo each other, and contests during Halloween are huge. They want to have the best costume. So help put those costumes together for them and sell them on Amazon.
Okay, we have a question, and Michelle asks, how do you know what how do you know how to research what sold well last year? Well, what sold well last year, you kind of can look at Amazon. And if you look at Keepa charts, you kind of have to get a good gauge of what sells. And just with the things that I've told you here. So look up Disney princess costumes and take a look at the Keepa charts from Amazon. If you don't have the Keepa browser downloaded on your Amazon your Chrome add-on or extension, Keepa, where it pulls the chart right up when you need to use that. So you need to download the Keepa add-on or extension or whatever it's called to make sure that those charts are coming up as soon as you do a search. So if you're looking for specific costumes, you can look them up by scanning them, or you can just start looking up things like Halloween candy and see what comes up. And you look for the little art. You look for what has a good trending sales rank. It's just like looking for anything else that's out there. And honestly, I don't know too many things that don't sell well for Halloween. I mean, it's like what they put out there does pretty well. Your name brand costumes, your costumes, if you recognize the name or the character, or it's a big brand like that, it's going to sell.
All right. Michelle asked, but what if it's out of stock? I've got a trick for you. You want to know my trick? If you go in as if you're going to list an item on Amazon, if you're interested in Halloween baking, I go in and I type in Halloween baking into the search box when I go to list an item and see what pops up, because you'll be able to look inside what Amazon doesn't have listed because it's not going to show up on Amazon. That's how I get around the fact that things aren't live right now. It's how I look at other people's bundles. It gives me another bit of information. I can then go and access those product pages. Amazon doesn't show those product pages to buyers because they're not available. They hide them. But for us sellers who can get in the back door, we still get to see those product pages. If you can find the ASIN, you can find the product page.
That's a great tip, Amy. And, if you're nervous about things, that if you're not sure what sells or it's not available right now or it doesn't have a chart or whatever, don't be afraid to create the listing. Your average generic $10 costume at Walmart probably isn't going to do very well, but your other type of costumes are big things. People spend big money on Halloween. And so, like, for example, the light sets that I put together last year, I got from Big Lots, and it wasn't wholesale. It was just straight up from Big Lots. And it was I created the listing because I'm like, orange, purple lights, put them together, call it a bundle, sell it in, I think it's in like lawn and patio or something like that. And you just can't be afraid to create the listing. My only regret is that I didn't buy more, because I bought like 6 or 7 to test and I sent them in and they all sold. And when I went back, they were all gone. So, and that happens. It happens when you're doing retail arbitrage, especially for a holiday, but there's plenty of time to play around with the Halloween listings. Last year, I know that there was like a baking set that sold really well for like way too much money in my mind, but who cares? It was like a dollar store, little cupcake papers and some ghost sprinkles. And it was like not even a cake set or anything. It was just like the decorating set. And it was like $12.99 or something. I thought, this is ridiculous. So don't block yourself in, makeup and makeup accessories. Some people don't even like costumes, or they make their own, but they want the makeup. So glow in the dark makeup. Also, what sells well is, flashlights and glow bracelets and glow stuff, because it's dark out. So when making sure that kids are safe by using those things. So just don't block yourself in with things that you're used to.
And also remember that if you're not comfortable buying big amounts of stuff this year, pay attention to what worked this year and take notes so that next year you can buy the quantity that you need to buy. I know that Chris and I earlier today were going through some of what we sold last year. Like, oh yeah, I forgot I sold that. That sold really, really well. Guess what? You want to do that for any holiday, any major thing that comes up, because guess what? That's information. That's one less bit of information you have to research next year.
Okay, and Vicki has a great question. What are our guidelines for ROI and pricing for a new item or a new bundle, creating a new listing? My ROI and pricing never changes because I always want at least a 75% return. And oftentimes, if I'm going to list a bundle or brand new listing, I test out 6 units. So even if it's a bundle, I'll send in 6. That's kind of my initial test for a bundle. And I like to aim for 100% ROI that first time around. If I need to lower the price because it's not selling for whatever reason, I'll do that. But for the most part, I'm not going to take the time to create something that I don't think is going to sell in the beginning. But that takes experience and time. So give yourself a good buffer. So make it between 100 and 75% to give yourself some wiggle room. So if it doesn't sell as well as you'd hoped, then you have some time to cut that price without cutting your bottom line to zero.
Now, if I'm finding things that are sub 5,000 rank, I will go down as far as 50%. And that's something that Kristen and I differ on. But if I'm going to sell a lot quickly, then I'm willing to take that risk with volume. And that works for me. So everybody does their own thing. I usually don't like to make less than $10 profit on something. I will go as low as $5 if it sells quickly.
So everybody's business is different. I know people that are happy with turning over, $1.50 to $2 all day long if they can do volume. It depends on your business model or your budget. If you only have $100 to spend on your inventory, turning $1 into $3 is fantastic. That's how I started. That's how people build up to bigger and better things. So, wherever you are in your business, just be comfortable with that. Be happy. Like if I handed you $1 and then 3 days later you handed me $3, I'd be super thrilled. So don't, just no matter where you are in your business, just be excited about where you are and stick to it. But I say if you're going to make some guidelines, stick to them for a time period so you can test what works and what doesn't work. So with Halloween, that's just something we're going through. We're going to move on to hit a couple more of these. Again, we have a lot to cover, and I would just want to make sure everybody, gets everything that they need. So another holiday observance events, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month for the month of October. And there's so many things that go with this month. There's a lot of tributes and walks and 5K.
The NFL, everybody wears pink. So it's huge.
It's a very, very, very supportive type of cancer that they, make a big deal. And so there's a lot of research that goes into a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of celebrities and all kinds of stuff. And surrounding that is product. So shirts and jewelry and hats and bracelets and mugs. And if you're a merch seller, capitalize, you guys. If you're a merch seller, there's lots of things, even inappropriate things, but things that are supportive. So don't limit yourself to just different things. Put a bundle together, some bracelets, a hat, or whatever, and show your support by creating a breast cancer awareness bundle.
And I will tell you that just because October's Breast Cancer Awareness Month doesn't mean that breast cancer awareness stuff doesn't sell year round. I have sold breast cancer stuff almost every single month, depending on what I found, where, when. I've bought on clearance. I've bought on wholesale. It sells. People want to help support those who are going through what they're going through.
And a lot of people, if they learn of someone's diagnosis right away, they'll go find something in support of that person and just say, hey, I've got my bracelet, I've got my hat, or they'll go to an event and wear something just to say, hey, stay strong. They get their pink stuff. So make sure you're looking for those things because it is a year-round thing. It just happens to be big in the beginning of Q4. Okay, then we have the World Series. So the baseball World Series is dead in the middle of October every single year. So we can't forget things like that. Fan merchandise and vintage World Series items. It's just like when the Olympics came around and people start looking at old Olympics trivia and old Olympic stuff and something from 1985 and all this kind of stuff. So think about all the types of things that someone who loves baseball would be buying because they're triggered to buy when their teams are doing well or they're supporting something.
And it's also, they make great gifts. So if somebody's team is in the World Series, somebody's team, it's something you can easily send off and easy to buy for somebody to celebrate. If your team's in the World Series, you want to have all that whatever you call it, paraphernalia, whatever it's called, and to celebrate. So think of World Series parties and what people are going to have in stock. Think of what the colors of the teams that hit the World Series are, or look back. You can kind of gauge on what colors might be popular depending on who is where in that whole run up to the World Series, all the championships, and get your product in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a good time for that, of course, is spring. But then again, it comes back around in the when the World Series comes up and people are just big fans. So speaking of big fans, I'm a big fan of football. It's football season, and that's not just right now. It actually is right now, like this week. I'm super excited about that. But it's all the way through December, and then the Super Bowl comes in February, the first week of February. So you've got all this time to capitalize on the NFL, but not just NFL. There's college ball, there's high school ball, there's little peewee football. Football season is a season, and when someone's a fan, they're a fan. We're talking tailgating, fan merchandise, flags. People even put those big stickers on their wall, and we have so much fan merchandise. I mean, let's be real. See, even stuff like this. Come on, you guys. Everybody, whoever's a fan, they're a fan, and they want to show their colors and all that kind of stuff. So you're talking shirts, hats, clothes, banners, mugs. What else?
Doesn't matter. I mean, think coolers, think chairs you sit in when you're tailgating, think anything. Some people want to brand their logo into their burgers that they're cooking. I mean, there is anything and everything to support different sports teams. And people who are tailgaters are avid tailgaters. The beer cozies, all of that. People want those things. They also make great gifts. So not only is it Q4, it's also gift giving time. So whether they buy it for themselves or whether somebody knows somebody is a Patriots fan or a Kansas City fan, they're going to think that's a great gift for them.
Okay, and there's some questions about whether or not you can actually sell NFL and World Series and baseball license type things. You can sell them if you get them from a distributor that you're authorized to sell. So what I know for sure you're not allowed to sell is jerseys. Jerseys are banned. You have the official NFL jerseys you may not resell, but you may resell shirts. I have personally sold these things. Now, I have a wholesale supplier for these things. There's a couple of catalogs that are, if you just look for licensed wholesale and type in NFL, MLB, things like that, it is not banned across the board. Just like a lot of like Nike, Under Armour, things like that, there are certain ASINs that are restricted. So you need to double check. But things like mugs and all that kind of stuff, they're sold from licensed distributors. They're absolutely allowed. And I have sold plenty myself. So I know that I didn't have to go through any sort of ungating for any of that. It's not across the board, all NFL or all those things. There are a few things that are restricted. So definitely double check.
And NFL and major baseball are only the big leagues. You've got NCAA, you've got high school. Think how many high school teams out there are the Rams, are the, all the different names, the Bulldogs, and start finding merchandise that's branded to those, and you're going to hit a much broader audience for those particular things. So don't just narrow in on the NFL and what's restricted. Look outside of that and know that you have a whole broad spectrum. Football's huge in the States.
Okay, and Jennifer's talking about she was told that NFL party stuff is banned from Amazon unless you also have a brick and mortar. Again, Jennifer, I'm not sure where you heard that, but I have a wholesale supplier of those things, and they own the license. And so because I'm a wholesale distributor of theirs, I'm authorized to sell their items. I didn't have to get any special clearance. It is a license, just like Disney, for example. Disney has a license with certain suppliers. So I'm not buying it off of a retail shelf. And so it's not banned for me because I'm buying certain things, not every Disney all over the board, but they have a license to be able to carry certain products, dollar store items, if you will. And we put them into bundles, and we're allowed to sell those things because our distributor has the license. We don't get the license to sell it, but we are authorized distributors as their wholesale customer. So again, you can check with your own, but as far as me personally, I have sold branded, licensed NFL, not necessarily party supplies, but supplies like blankets and mugs and hats and clothes and socks. And I have not been banned or anything, but I'm not buying at retail arbitrage. That may or may not be a thing, but I've also never been asked for any receipts. I just list them. So if that comes up, it comes up, but that hasn't happened for me. So as far as to my knowledge, as of today's date, that's not what I have had in my personal experience.
I want to keep on the trend of sports. We've talked baseball. We've talked football. we've got NASCAR, and we've got basketball. All happen in Q4. So the NASCAR championship, I forget, that's in November, I believe. It's at the end of November, beginning in December is NASCAR championships. And basketball starts in the end of October. So we have an insane amount of season. I'm sure ice hockey slots in there somewhere, but I have no idea about ice hockey at all.
Yeah, I'm not sure when the season starts. We're not really hockey fans here, but I know that, these things are coming up. And when people go to certain events like that, and it's not just that, if you're nervous about selling licensed items, maybe because you don't have a wholesale account, or which is not hard to get, I promise you. You Google it and find it and give them your reseller's license, and they will all but hand you a catalog. And then you don't have to worry about inauthentic claims because you're buying direct from a wholesaler. So I really don't worry about any of that kind of stuff, especially around the middle of the season when their teams are doing well. Things sell really well. And with the NASCAR championship, again, end of November, it's a big deal. There's a lot of tailgating. There's a lot of different things. So think outside of just fan merchandise. You're thinking about, you ever go tailgating and you ever know standing outside and what you do? Like you said, coolers, soft side coolers, disposable items, anything to keep your drinks cold, koozies, just all kinds of different stuff that you can use. So remember that this is in Q4 and people just spend money on all kinds of stuff in Q4. So it is something to really think about with all these sporting events coming up. Don't limit yourself to just buy toys for Q4.
Yeah, face paint that people put on their faces, hair things, all that type of stuff.
Speaking of that, repurpose that, okay, right? Because the face painting and things like that, repurpose it. After Halloween and it goes on clearance, all that face makeup, repurpose it. It sells year round. It really does. Face paint for whatever reason. You've got face painting for, kids' events and carnivals at their school. Face paint and makeup. I have made a killing buying that stuff for less than $1 each after it goes on clearance after Halloween, and people are still buying it and buying it more than just in Halloween. So think about those things as well. So we've got our sports, we've got through Halloween. Now, the next big thing that comes up, of course, is Thanksgiving.
The forgotten holiday in Q4. Unfortunately, a lot of people forget about this one as far as a holiday that you can buy product to sell for. It's a huge market, and there's food products, there are decorations, there's hostess gifts. There's so much that you can do for Thanksgiving. So start looking at what your stores carry. Start paying attention to what you see around you. What happens in your Thanksgiving? What were things that would have made your Thanksgiving easier, or that you buy for your Thanksgiving?
Right. And if you're not the one that cooks Thanksgiving, you're the one that's traveling, or you're the one that's bringing it. You think about things that like air mattresses and travel things and travel pillows. It's the number one. I believe they said it's the number one travel day of the year is the day before Thanksgiving. A lot of people have the entire weekend off, Thursday through Sunday, and people go visit their family. So people are traveling. So think about travel items. Think about air mattresses and extra bedding and to-go boxes. That's a big deal as of last year. To-go boxes for people who are visiting. They'll buy like specialty, pretty looking boxes that people can take like a doggy bag in. And because everyone wants Thanksgiving leftovers, and these boxes and cute little things that they come in, they look like, not quite like the Chinese takeout box, but I've seen them with pretty fall colors on them. I thought it was a great idea, and they're not expensive, but you could put a bundle of 5 of those together and then send all your family home with to-go boxes. So thinking about cooking, baking.
My favorite thing to sell is kitchen gadgets, because during Thanksgiving, you're dealing with a 20-pound turkey. You need different things than what you would normally have. And most people don't have those things if you're hosting your first Thanksgiving, or you need a roasting pan or whatever. But those types of things that aren't the norm, people are going to come to Amazon to find.
And let's be real, there's a lot of people out there that if they're hosting their first Thanksgiving or they're hosting it again, then one of the number one times of year that these sell is tablecloths. I know it seems like, oh, a tablecloth is so boring. Who cares? Like people are looking for the right size or the right color, and people change their decor like they change their clothes. And people like to say, oh, look at this new pretty drink dispenser. I've just got to have this. I mean, go to Costco. If they sell it at Costco, people are buying it in abundance.
Just because you don't have a tablecloth on your table, or you don't do a centerpiece, or you don't do hostess gifts, just because you don't do it doesn't mean there's other people who don't. You have to remember, just with anything you sell, just because it's not something you would ever buy doesn't mean there aren't tens of thousands of people out there who would buy it.
Absolutely. And even you just said that. You said centerpiece. I've never put a centerpiece on my table because I'm always like, I can't see behind the centerpiece. Who's sitting over there behind? And we do a really big, long table for all 25 of us that gather. And we put 3 6-foot tables together, and I put like all the tablecloths on together so that you don't see the ugly 6-foot table underneath it. And we just all just sit at the same table. No kids' tables. We all just gather together, and it's great. So think about what you do at your house, but otherwise also other people. Maybe they only have a table of 4 and they would like a pretty centerpiece or something like that maybe they can gift to someone when they leave. So that's a great tip. Now,
centerpieces were a big part of my Thanksgiving growing up. My mom always had a centerpiece on every table that we had. So it goes to show you how different people do it differently.
Right, exactly. So always be thinking outside of your own personal comfort zone. We always tend to get
pots.
Yeah, we always get to pigeonholed into things. Oh yeah, crock pot, roasters, things like that. They go on sale. So think about those. And now, of course, you're not thinking about it the week before Thanksgiving. Look at your holiday calendar, because your calendar is going to tell you when to send these things in. Send them in. They're going to be on sale, or look for some different things. And we got to hit it before Thanksgiving. People who do their holiday baking, a lot of them do it like a couple weeks in advance, especially if they're doing lots of cookies and lots of pie. I mean, maybe not pies, but if they freeze them, maybe. So think about that ahead of time and make sure that it's there in enough time. Again, check your holiday calendar, because in the calendar it tells you kind of these cutoff dates. Send this in by this, send this in by this. So making sure you're paying attention to that. And of course, the biggie is Christmas. And yeah, we could talk about Christmas the entire show. But let's be real. We all know a lot of what sells at Christmas. We're going to go over a few things, but I almost want to say, if it is not nailed to the floor, it's going to sell in November and December, right? Everything, decor, stocking stuffers, pets items are huge. I don't have any pets. I have enough children and a husband, and that's enough for me. But we don't have, not that I don't like pets, but we just don't have one. But a lot of people that have pets, my friend, she gets her cat a stocking. She gets a stocking for her cat and stuffs it with stuff, and then she opens it for her cat. Like, great. Buy it on Amazon. So pet items, batteries. What else?
Gosh, specialty food is a huge one for me. And that goes, specialty food, don't just think like gift bundles, high-end fancy stuff. We're talking people make cookies. Tons of cookies, cookie exchanges. People bring cookies for parties. People bring cookies for classroom stuff for their kids. Cookies are huge. People just want to bake cookies with their kids, but they don't want to go through the process of buying all of the pieces they need to make peanut butter blossoms. So give it to them.
Right.
Also, grandma can send that as a gift, or mom can send that to a gift. Say, we used to make these all the times when you were a kid. Have them, make them with your kids. Enjoy. Like that type of thing is great. It's a great gift. It's also a great make mom's life a little bit easier, so she doesn't have to remember to go buy all that stuff. Make their lives easier. That's what we're doing. We're providing a service. Think of things that other people would utilize during the holiday season.
And one of my favorites is gag gifts. Okay, so every year we have a friends party. We have like this ugly sweater party. Yes, we do that because it's hysterical. And we always do what we call like the white elephant gift exchange, right? Where you have to buy some sort of gag gift or find something to re-gift or something around your house that's like useless, like whatever. I mean, we don't always buy that stuff, but gag gifts sell really well this time of year. Something silly and off the wall that you would never think of on a normal time sells really well. Like, why is Christmas time, the number one time for Chia Pets. Like no one gives a rip about Chia Pets until it's December. And they're like, oh,
and then they're everywhere.
Look at the Chia head. And so they literally don't really sell throughout the year, but all of a sudden the Chia Pets sell.
And that you will see that. You will see products that from January through September sell intermittently. And then all of a sudden come Q4, we'll see what's called the Christmas arc. And all of a sudden the sales rank goes up, the inventory levels go up because people are buying. And if you have something that's been selling for 3 or 4 years, you will see that Christmas arc every single year.
Can I confess, I sold, was it last year or the year before? I think it was the year before, like a ton of pooping reindeer. The reindeer that pooped out the candy. Like, I was like, ew, that's so dumb. I bet it'll sell. And sure enough, they sold. And they sold wicked fast and crazy. People like those gag gift stuff. I mean, it might not be something you're into, but people buy the weird stuff.
My
Otherwise,
7-year-old son thinks that's hysterical. So...
Right. Those like pooping reindeer, whatever. Who cares? It's a gag gift. So if you haven't thought of that, or you just look at it and go, that's ridiculous. If you look at something and go, that's ridiculous, it probably sells. Scan it, look it up. Because it's just the time of year where there's a lot of people that they will spend extra money on junk because they can justify it. It's a holiday.
The elf on the shelf, there's the mensch on the bench, there's, all sorts of stuff that people will do this time of year that they wouldn't think to spend money on at any other point of the year.
Okay. And regardless of, whatever religion you are, there's religious stuff. There's, it is a Christian holiday. It stemmed from being a Christian holiday. So thinking about all kinds of things like that as well. A lot of people give a lot of religious gifts and Bibles and books and things like that. Ornaments, gifts. There's people that collect things. Anything that anyone collects, now is the time to buy them. You're talking Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Bears, anything. If you think about it, when somebody collects something, that's the first thing you think of when you think of that person, and that's what you want to give them as a gift. Like, oh, so-and-so collects those. Let's buy one. So think about those types of things and then look for them. There might be odd and obscure or something that you wouldn't normally stock. So think outside the box when it comes to things like that.
And when you go to big box retailers, you'll see things like that are around, that have major brands on them that are kitschy and not what you normally see the rest of the year. That the reason the big box retailers are carrying them is because they're pretty sure that they're going to sell. So look at what they've got on the shelves and take note of that. Either buy it to resell or see what else you can find that's in that same genre to sell as well.
And I don't know about where you live, but where I live, the lawn art for every holiday now, it seems. The lawn art. And what I mean by that is like anything you can put in your lawn, the air blown, blow ups, inflatable
Olaf, or Alvin and the Chipmunks, or whoever it is. My son thinks that would be the greatest thing ever in our front yard.
Yeah, I'm not putting that in my yard. No. But there we have tons of decorations and lights and light shows. And now last year they had that, they have all these different things you can plug in now.
Thing that went crazy last year.
Right. And that you can plug in and then play your music and your lights do all kinds of crazy stuff. The Starfall. Okay, Vicki says, if we have a wholesale account and this is our first Q4, how should we guesstimate how much inventory to get? A good thing is to ask your wholesale company. So ask them to say, this is my first time purchasing this. What do you think is an estimated, turnover rate? And just ask them, what are their best sellers? What are things that, you can almost guarantee are going to sell consistently year over year? And let them tell you, because you need to have a relationship with them. They want to sell product. And so if you've got a decent wholesaler, that's one of the things that you can do is ask them. That's how I got a hold of some of the NFL and other sporting events that I wasn't sure about. All I did was ask them. I say, what are your best selling teams? And they told me because they want me to buy product from them. And so they said, well, these, and these sell well, and this thing, and this sells well. And I'm like, sweet. They give you the research. They don't always, but you should always ask. Just say, I'm kind of new to this particular genre or this niche or whatever, and I'd really like some suggestions on what are some of your best sellers, and see what they say. and then look those up. And if Amazon's got them dominated already, put them into a bundle if you can. And that kind of helps you corner the market on something that's already popular that maybe you can pair with something else. And so that would be an excellent place to start, is really just to ask your rep. If you don't have a rep, ask for a rep. If you're only communicating with your wholesalers through straight up email, and it's not an actual direct person, but it seems to be a different person every time, maybe try to pick up the phone and just give them a call and just say, I'm a little bit lost here. This catalog's so big. Can you lead me in the right direction? And say, or ask what last year's bestsellers were, and then look that up on Amazon, and then look at that product and say, people who bought this also bought this. That's a clear giveaway of what other people are also buying.
Yeah, that's a great tip, because that's a way you can form bundles. That's a way you can find other products to sell. I love that people who bought this also bought this piece. People who looked at this also looked at all of these things. And all of a sudden you get this rabbit trail of information you can follow about what other people are selling on Amazon. You can check out ranks. You can check out where the price points are. And you can figure out based on that information whether or not it's something you want to sell. Heck, you can even go on and say, well, I like that brand. I want to look more about that brand. And you can pay attention, click, if it's a major brand, you can click on it right under the product, and it will show you everything that brand has on Amazon. And then you can start searching more in depth of things that are actually profitable for you to carry.
Right. That's just a great in general research tip. And as far as Vicki, I wish I could say how much you could actually order for Q4, but my honest opinion, this is after I've been on selling online for 13 years. And on Amazon for 7. And my gut instinct is always buy double what you normally think. Now, that doesn't mean you buy double of last year's pie face game that you and 100 million other people also bought. I'm talking about every single thing I seem to buy, I buy like, oh, I think this is going to be plenty. And I run out and it's too late to reorder from my wholesaler. And it's like, dang, we should have ordered more of those. So and every year I try to I'm like, okay, this year we totally got enough of those. I think we're going to make it to, the end of December and just get, of course, everybody wants to time inventory perfectly. Who doesn't? But the reality is you got to go with your budget and your gut. And sometimes if your gut says buy 12, I say buy 18, just in case, because it's Q4. And if it's going to sell, it is going to sell. It's either going to not sell at all, or it's going to pretty much do great. Everybody's in the buying mood. They're always like, add to cart, add to cart, add to cart. So
I will say that if you are going to be creating listings, make sure your photography is good. Make sure your product, that's what people see first. That's what they make their first impression on. So take the time, take good product photos. I know in Q4 we can get a little bit rushed, and that's the last thing we're thinking about. But if you're taking the time to create a listing, take the time to take good pictures. Take the time to look at your keywords. Take the time to craft a listing that's going to make the person go, yeah, I want that. I want 10 of that. So that you're putting in the effort to get the sale.
People ask me a lot because they call me the bundle queen, is like my new name, I guess. But people ask me a lot, how do you know your bundles are going to sell when you're picking something out? And I'll tell you, I pick bundles that will sell before they're even made because I do the research that we just talked about. That's my number one tip for anything, is that I actually look at what's out there selling that may not even be available. So this is selling okay, and this is selling okay, and this looks like a match made in heaven. Peanut butter plus jelly equals a bundle. I mean, it's I know that's kind of simplistic, but I mean it like that. I look at different things of this. People who bought this also bought this. And sometimes it's stuff I never even think of. And I'm thinking, oh, that's great together. So you kind of put some things together, or you put you're making convenience packs perhaps. So we put a lot of different things together that we feel like just makes sense. And it just, I do the research ahead of time, and I just know that using these keywords, I use a lot of keywords that are very common. So for example, for Halloween candy, if it's not something that's already out there, it's going to be Halloween candy corn variety pack. That's actually one of our bolos that we're on a bolo list that we're going to give you. Now, that's coming at the end of the show. It'll come for your download or whatever, and we'll go over a couple of the things that we have here. But, it's not exactly direct, go buy this exact item. It's more like look at these things in general, because Amy and I today when we were doing prep for the show, we both looked at Q4 last year and what we were selling. And every turn of a page, we were both like, oh, I forgot about that item. Oh, I forgot about that item. Oh, remember how much we sold of these? And she goes, how much did I sold of this item? And I was looking at December. I was still selling candy corn in December, because people love their food products. They get married to it. They're like, I have to have caramel macchiato Brock's candy corn at all times. And they only sell it in September, October, and then it's gone. And so they only bring out the specialty flavors, every so often. So when that stuff goes on clearance for $1.25, it goes all in the cart, and I still sell it in Q4 and for $9.99.
People love their candy corn. It makes me ill, but people love it.
Right. See, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Exactly. I want to move us through this part because I want to get us talking more in depth about some of the stuff that we're already starting to pepper in. Hanukkah falls late this year. Talking to some people, it may change the game of how gifts are given in families that celebrate both. Because usually you've got Hanukkah where you've got 7 days, 8 days, and you give gifts every day. And then you've got Christmas. This time they all run together. Hanukkah starts on Christmas this year. So it's all one and the same. So pay attention to what you're buying and how much you buy, knowing that. Every time holidays fall on top of each other, it changes the game a little bit. But pay attention. Hanukkah, Jewish holidays in general sell well. There's a couple on the calendar to look at and pay attention to. It's a very under-targeted market on Amazon. So if it's something you're interested in, if it's something that you know a lot about, I don't, look to see what things sell for each one of those holidays, because there are a number of big ones that I know. There are products that hit the store shelves like Passover. All of a sudden, there's this huge section in my grocery store for it. So obviously, there's a demand for it. So pay attention to those things. There are Jewish holidays and there's Hanukkah. So pay attention to all those different things.
Yeah, and things like that. Again, the same types of things. Decor, specialty food items, menorah candles, chocolate coins. There's some other things. I'm not real brushed up on my Jewish holiday traditions, but Google it. Why not? You want to be where everybody else isn't. That's the reality. Everybody can look at the hot toy list at Target and at Babies R Us. Great. And there's a lot of people that make a killing on that stuff, and they're willing to take, 20, 30% ROI and turn and burn and all that kind of stuff. That's risky for me. I would rather go down my own rabbit trail and just corner the market in certain places that other people aren't thinking about than have to worry about whether my pie face game is going to sell more over retail price. Sorry, if you guys don't know anything about pie face, that was like the big game last year that there was like 800 sellers on it. Amazon kept selling out. It was the number one seller for so long. And some people sold out at $50 and some people got left with 2,500 of them and they didn't know what to do with it because now it's $14.99.
I only bought 10. Because I knew that the bottom would fall out from under. That's one of the things that you learn with things like that. There is a certain adrenaline rush you get when you get into the game and you all of a sudden sell it for $50. That's awesome. But if you get stuck with 50, 100, 500 of them, that's not so awesome. And you have to liquidate them and lose money. So
everybody gets pie face for Christmas.
I've done that. I've had things that didn't sell the way I wanted them to. And guess what people got for birthdays and Christmas and all the holidays?
Someone told me, I think it was somebody had said recently on one of the Facebook forums that their Super Bowl plates didn't do well, so they're still eating off of them after almost.
Robin Johnson posted a picture of her family eating regular whatever night dinner off of Super Bowl plates from last year.
Hey, we all make mistakes. I mean, Robin Johnson's $1 million seller, and that's just the reality of it. We've all had things that were like, oh, that wasn't a very good idea. We had one that was like a one St. Patrick's Day bundle that we got in too late. We just got in the game too late. We didn't wholesale. We just were like, hey, let's try this out. My mom put it together. And so we're like, it just didn't do well at all. And so we're like, okay, we'll put it in next year, except for we're sending it in January so that it has time to gather some legs. Because I think we sent it in the end of February or something. And it was just not enough time. So we always end, a lot of people can end up with things like that. But, just the more experience you have, the less often it happens.
We have to all pay for our education. in the Amazon world. I have paid doing wholesale, doing all sorts of stuff. So know that if you make a mistake, I still make mistakes. I've been doing it almost 6 years. Kristen still makes mistakes. So it happens to everybody, and it's a learning experience. The best thing you can do is like, okay, that didn't work. I bought $500 of a wholesale product, and guess how many I sold? It all got donated. So guess what I learned? I learned something not to buy to sell on Amazon. And it comes down to different things. There's different factors that you learn and different things you have to analyze. So whenever you come up with that, move on.
All right. Last but not least, in Q4 the holidays, and then we're going to move on to the next section, is New Year's. Okay. New Year's is twofold. Number one, New Year's parties. Okay. People have New Year's Eve parties, even people with families, even people, young kids and, 20s, people put on their best and they wear their sequin dresses and their high heeled shoes. Some people go to Times Square and they buy those 2017 glasses and hoopla hats and shiny everything. That happens not just in New York, but people have parties and they photo booth props and noisemakers and food. People have these huge parties and they do lots of appetizers. So think appetizer. Have you guys ever seen those little mini appetizer plates with the tiny little forks? I know people who buy those. They buy them from me on Amazon. So buy them. People use those. And I know these things seem fancy. And I'm like all about the paper plates from Costco. But people are like, hey, let's buy. I mean, no shame in the game. Go sell those. Sell them in packets. The decor. I know last year for us, this is like my personal bolo, is the photo booth props were huge. So if you can get them in early, and mind you, that people forget about New Year's, sellers forget about New Year's because it comes just a week after Christmas. They're tired because of all the Q4, that between December 25th and January 2nd, they're like, they don't sell anything. Everything's boring because the sales just drop off. To where if you're prepared to have your New Year's stuff intact, how many times have you heard this from yourself or people in your family? Oh, right after Christmas, I'm going on a diet. I'm just, too overweight. I'm out of shape. I need to get myself together. I'm going to wait till January.
I'm going to hit the gym for that first month. Those of us who go to the gym all year long go, oh gosh, it's January again. Now I can't find any parking spots because everybody and their mother decides they're going to go to the gym for a month and then they're going to fall off the wagon again.
Right. So New Year's, don't forget about the parties and the clothing and the fancy shoes and the bags and the photo booth props and all that kind of stuff. But then the resolutions, money management, finance, books sell huge in January. People are bored. Christmas is over. They're broke. They're not spending that much money. They're all on diets, so they can't eat. So they're going to read a bunch of books. I'm not kidding. This is real stuff, you guys. Weight loss, health, food, items, supplements, weight loss, sporting equipment, yoga mats, cooking and fitness. Cookbooks are huge in January. Cookbooks. I'm not kidding. People still buy those. Yes, they don't always look up on Pinterest all the time. People still use real books. Smoking cessation. Anything that somebody's going to quit doing for the start doing and stop doing, that stuff needs to be on the shelf because as soon as Christmas rolls over, even getting to the 28th and 29th of December, they want their stuff there because they're starting on January 1st, which if my husband's like, yeah, January 1st. Yeah, that's like all the bowl games from the college bowl games are all on January 1st and sits around and watch football. So can't start your diet till after that's over. It's usually the second or the third. So just keep that in mind. That is part of Q4. I mean, technically it's Q1, but you have to prepare for it now. You have to think about those things. By the time your Christmas shipments are in, you're immediately changing your mind to January 1st. What am I selling for January 1st?
That actually transitions us really nicely into our second topic that we're going to talk about.